Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the King's Law podcast. I want to remind everyone that every law that I speak about is at www.thekingslaw.com. You can search it by category, or there's a text box at the end where you can just type in words, and it'll filter the list by the words. And also up there is there's a shop where you can buy a sticker to put on your door that'll take you to this website. It's one of the laws you're supposed to have, the law written on the post of your doors and things like that. So that's to help you out. And I would advise to keep checking out that website, because there's going to be new things on there as time goes on. And today's episode is about a current event and an ongoing issue in the United States and in the world in general. It's an ongoing issue in the United States, and it's a current event. Today is January 30th. For me, it's not going to come out on January 30th. So whenever you hear this, because I'll record these episodes well in advance. But today, when this is being recorded, is January 30th, 2024. And the issue that is being discussed is immigration in the world and the United States. And I know it's a hot topic at this point in time, because, you know, people keep talking about civil war and, different things because of the southern border of the United States, which is, if you don't know, right, is the border between the United States and Mexico, and kind of the gateway for like Central Americans to cross into America, and from people from South America who may have made that journey through the, I forget what that gap is called, because there's no road from Colombia to Central America, but some people make it on foot through the rainforest from Venezuela and Colombia and other places, and they come up all the way through Central America to the United States. But today is about that issue, immigration, and where you, as a God-fearing and law-abiding, when I say law-abiding, this podcast is about the Mosaic laws, right? The laws that was passed to Moses, the law that was given to Israel for their covenant, and the covenant that was extended to the world, right? So this is universal law. This existed before Israel. This is the law which guides the universe that God created. If you believe that, if you claim to be a God-fearing person, right, and you believe that God created the heavens and the earth and yourself and gave you life and breath, right, then this is your creator's law for the universe that he created, that you live in. And I'm assuming you live in it, or else you wouldn't be able to listen to this. And I'm assuming if you believe in God, then you believe that you can follow that logic and get to that conclusion that I just, said. But today is about immigration, and as somebody who fears God and the law, where you should fall in immigration. Because I know there's a lot of, people who are God-fearing or want to be God-fearing, right? And they have different positions on this, right? There's a group of people who say, oh, no, you got to close the border and shut it down immediately, right? And then there's a group of people who say, you got to leave the border open. And at this point, right, it's Texas who has their border, which faces Mexico and a bunch of other states. But Texas is kind of the state that's in the middle of this, kind of like media frenzy that's going on with the civil war between the Fed and the states. And, and they're on the side of they want to close the border, right? They're putting up razor wires so that the folks who get here on foot, have trouble crossing over and are deterred from coming to America for one reason or another. We'll get into those reasons later. And then you have the federal government, which the president right now is Joe Biden. And they are saying, hey, I understand you don't, because, immigration at the southern border is supposed to be, I don't know, because I don't have the numbers. I don't know where they get these numbers from. But people are sneaking in how you have all the numbers, right? But they claim that it's at an all-time high, right? And, it was an issue when Trump was in office. He was wanted to build a fence and things like that. And they say it's at an all-time high and it needs to be stopped, right? So the federal government is saying, okay, well, you all need to stop putting up the razor wire because that could be dangerous to people who, you know, are tired and they may have children with them and things like that, who are trying to cross over a river or whatever else, and they might get stuck, they might die, right? They might drown or they might get stuck, die of some injuries, or just get stuck, period, and die of thirst because you're out there in the middle of the desert, right? And they're saying, you know, well, I understand there's a lot of traffic coming through there right now, but, you know, maybe we can put like a limit on it at 5,000 people a day. But, you know, we got to be reasonable, and you can't just not let anybody in. Right. So I'm going to speak to this. I don't want to give my opinion on this, period. And I've already stated in this podcast a bunch of times that nothing I say to you is from me, right? I don't want anything I say to be my opinion, and I don't intend for anything I say to be my opinion. Everything I say is what you should do under law as somebody who claims to be a God-fearing person, if that is what you claim, right? So when we look at this issue from the lens of somebody who is a God-fearing person who wants to follow God's laws and commandments, I'm going to read a commandment and kind of take the conversation from there. And any law that I bring up, like I said, is on www.thekingslaw.com. You can search it by the word stranger. You can search it by category, maybe property, land, whatever the category may be. But the law that I'm going to read right now is, at this point in time, is law 345, is Leviticus chapter 25, verse 35 through 37. And it says, if your brother becomes poor, you should help him, even if he is a stranger or a traveler. That's very important. Even if he is a stranger or a traveler, you should let him stay with you. Do not lend anything to him for interest or profit. So that is a law, that is a commandment. And I'm going to read it again just so it's crystal clear. You can go look it up for yourself. This is Leviticus. Like, if you don't want to look at the website, right, and you only want to look at the Torah or the Bible, because these laws are in the Torah, in the Bible. This is Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. It's Leviticus chapter 25, verse 35 through 27. It says, if your brother becomes poor, you should help him, even if he is a stranger or a traveler. You should let him stay with you. Do not lend anything to him for interest or profit. So it's like you're supposed to let them in, not with the intention of making money off of them and bringing them into debt. Doesn't say you're supposed to let them in, make them wait. Doesn't say you're supposed to lock them up, put them in a cage. It says you should let him stay with you. Right? And that, I'm not taking sides. I'm not taking sides with the Fed. I'm not taking sides with the people out there in Texas. But people claim to be God-fearing, and it's not godly to turn these people away. And it makes sense why when you think about it. Because in America, if you haven't done a lot of traveling and things like that, I'm just going to say on a spectrum, like from the places that I've been to around the world, I haven't been everywhere, but I've been a few places, right, on, in each continent. America's rich, very, very rich. And I've worked in DC, and America is very technologically advanced. America has no worries. It's very self-sufficient, very technologically advanced, has a very stable and populist controlled government, despite what people think, right? When you look at the government, there's people from all backgrounds, all different types of families in government based on their position and effort to get in there, right? There is not one family controlling. There might be one or a couple families, who might be sponsoring people, but when you look at the people who are in government, the people who are working in the buildings, the people who are running for office, the federal government and all around the country, right, in each state and local governments, it's a wide range of people, of all races, backgrounds, skin colors, whatever, right? So with that being said, America is very well off. If you live in America, you live a comfortable lifestyle. When we think about starvation in America, you don't know what it looks like because it's not really happening. Anywhere you're at, even if you can't get a job, even if you're on drugs, right? You can go get an EBT card. You don't have to wait for that. They'll give you $300-400 a month for you to go get food. Right? You have children, they'll give you, depending on where you live, anywhere from $3,000 a month to, $600 a month to get yourself a place to stay. So it's very hard to be homeless in America, and it's very hard to go hungry in America. And America has tons of cities that have empty homes in them, period. I come from one, Philadelphia. Philadelphia at one point in time had 2 million people in it. Right now, I think it has a little bit over 1 million people in it. There are entire neighborhoods in Philadelphia that just have people on drugs in them and abandoned houses. Right? So if you're that rich where a city can sit and have empty houses like a Philadelphia or Cleveland or Detroit or Chicago has a lot of empty neighborhoods and things like that, right? Then you can let these people in, man. There's no reason to turn them away. People talk about terrorism. People talk about all these different things, but at the end of the day, right? A terrorist who comes from maybe Asian or African, European, Middle Eastern country, they can get a plane ticket and come here. It's pretty easy, especially if you're coming from the EU. They can walk into the EU and get a plane ticket here. So that argument doesn't make any sense. It's just saying, you might be saying you cannot follow this commandment because we don't know who's coming over the border. They're dangerous. Right? When you look at Texas, Texas is a very empty state. Texas is one of the most populated states in this country, right? Has one of the highest populations of a state in this country, but at the same time, it is empty. There are a few cities in Texas, and other than that, it's just flat land and desert. It's nothing there. So when these people do cross the border, unless they got a jet picking them up at the border to take them to this place where they're going to, perform this terrorist attack, it's going to take them a long time to get from point A to point B. And the way that these people get from point A to point B, said border to city, is by a government funded bus. So they, at that point in time, they have to give their information. At that point in time, they can't bring any weapons with them. They got to get on the bus and go to the city where they have nothing. They don't have an ID. They might have an ID from their country, but they don't have a U.S. government ID, which means they can't go buy a gun. They don't have anything. They don't have any weapons. They don't have any money. They don't have anything, right? And you got to think, if a person walks here instead of buying a plane ticket and coming here and getting a visa, which anybody can do. If you live in the Middle East, like let's say we have a war going on. We do. I'm not going to say let's say. We have a war going on in Israel right now, right? In and around Israel right now, where a lot of the people around Israel are threatening to attack America, right? A lot of those folks have dual citizenship. A lot of those folks have citizenship to the UAE. A lot of those folks have citizenship in Turkey, Lebanon. A lot of those folks who live in those countries have dual citizenship between that country and another country in the EU. And if you have that privilege, right, which a lot of them do, they do not have to go to Mexico and walk across the border to sneak in here. They can fly here. Period. They could just fly here. So saying there's terrorists walking across the border doesn't make any sense, because they can fly here, period. There's nothing stopping them from flying here. So when people say that, one, you got to say, and I'm saying this from a very unbiased point of view, right? This is me just saying the law and why people may, and what reasons people have given that they cannot obey this law, which is a commandment from God. The reason is that they say terrorists may come across the border. The countries that make threats against us, one, are across the Atlantic Ocean or across the Pacific Ocean. Then you got to go through China and wherever else to get to the Middle East, right? Or you got to Russia makes threats against us. You got to go across the Pacific Ocean, or you come through Alaska. They can come through Alaska and come down through Canada, but nobody's talking about the Canadian border. You see what I'm saying? You can drive freely from the Canadian border. A guy from Russia, which we have conflict with, they're he's not he might be the president, chairman, whatever he is, right? Putin is making threats against America right now, and you can send people through the east of Russia right into Alaska. The last island in Russia is about 40 minutes away from the coast of Alaska. So they can come right over here, come right down through Vancouver, and come right into America. They can get on a bus and come right to America. So for people to pinpoint this southern border as a issue makes no sense. And then when we talk about these people from these other countries who are making threats against us, China, Russia, a lot of Middle Eastern countries and things like that, we let them fly here. There's no flight ban from those countries to here. They can fly here. They can, and even if they can't fly directly here, I just came from Japan, man. Well, I was in Japan like a month ago. These people can fly to Japan and then just fly here. Period. It's nothing stopping them from doing that. You say, oh, they got to get a visa. It takes 10 seconds to get a visa online. Especially if you committing a terrorist attack and you got a sponsor. You don't even got to worry about money. They can fly here, man. They can fly here. They don't have to go to Honduras and then walk through Mexico and hitch a ride on a train and come to America. They don't have to do that. The people who are coming here from South America and Central America, because this is like that. I'm just addressing those arguments to point out how nonsensical they are from a logical point of view, from an inductive point of view, just using your reasoning. It doesn't make sense to point out that border because every other border, including our ports of entry, is insecure. We don't really care about who's coming and what they're coming for. There's plenty of people who come here from Russia every day. There's plenty of people who come here from the EU every day. There's plenty of people who come here from the Middle East every day, including Israel, including countries we have conflicts with. They come here. We let them in. They don't have to walk from the southern border and come in. The terrorist watch list is not that long. It's not everybody who's in said Lebanon, said Iran or whatever, right? If a person from Iran wants to attack America, they can easily walk to or take a drive to Turkey. They can go get credentials in Turkey and then fly here. And let's not forget, Turkey is connected to it's the EU. So they can drive through Turkey into the EU, get credentials, and fly here. So there's no reason for them to fly to Honduras and walk up and find a coyote and go across the Rio Grande. Doesn't make any sense, man. They can come here, period. Through a regulated port of entry. And then when they get here, they can, if they have credentials from the EU and all that, they can go and find someone. They can go and find somebody, and they can get somebody to go get a gun for them. They can get somebody to go get the ingredients to buy a bomb for them. They can bring their credit cards with them so they can buy the tools to buy a bomb. Right? So the pointing out this southern border makes no sense. Period. And I'm not going to speculate on why people will point that out as a problem, but I'm just talking about the arguments of why the border is a problem. Then there's another argument, right, that we hear often that talks about like population control and how this is stealing money out of Americans' hands and things like that, and how this is going to drive up the cost of living in America. When we talk about these people who are coming here, they don't have any money, man. So if you're an American and you have all these benefits, right, and you have a job, which they can't get because they don't have any working skills, so they're not competing for you They're not competing for your job. If you have a skilled job, they're not competing for your job. And most of them aren't even competing for your job at Walmart because they can't get a job at Walmart. They don't have the ability, the working clearance to go through the paperwork and get a job at Walmart. So they're not even competing for your job at Walmart or your experience job. So they're not taking those jobs from you. They're living the lowest lifestyle that you could possibly live here, and probably going to get taken advantage of by somebody and get paid, $100 a week to do a job that, somebody would have to pay American $1,200 a week to do. Right. And they say, well, that's stealing from America. But if you think about it, most Americans don't want these jobs anyway. Most Americans don't want to work on a chicken farm. Most Americans don't want to work on a sugarcane farm in Florida or Alabama. Most Americans don't want to work on a pig farm in the middle of the United States. Most Americans are not seeking those jobs, period. And I'm not even going to say no Americans are seeking those jobs. No Americans are depending on those jobs because every American can move to a different place and get a better job, period. Any American can go and get a minimum wage job anywhere because there are a bunch of places that are looking to hire minimum wage workers and move to a state where they can make $16 an hour instead of working for $7.20 an hour at a pig farm in Tennessee. So nobody wants these jobs anyway. So they're not stealing nothing from you. And even if they were competing with you for anything, you have to look at it from, because at the end of the day, even if you couldn't get a job in America as a United States citizen, you are taken care of. It's very hard to become homeless, and it's very hard to go hungry and starve in America, period. It's very hard to not even have transportation in America. Right? So when you look at the person who you're trying to keep out, you have to say, that person literally walked here from where they were. They packed the bag, they went to the store, they bought some water, maybe some fruit, and they walked miles, hitched a ride on a train, went through one of the most dangerous parts of Mexico, right? Which is one of the most dangerous places in the world. If you look at the top 50 cities that's the most dangerous in the world, half of them are in America and Mexico, right? So they're going through dangerous places. And you have to really stop, reason, and put you, because it says you're supposed to let him stay with you. And there's another law which I'll find in here, which says, when you're supposed to treat the people who come to you as your son and love them as yourself, right? So if you put yourself in their shoes as you're supposed to, because you're supposed to treat everyone like yourself and love them as yourself, the only reason you would do that and anybody else would go through all of that to get here is because they literally have nothing where they were. So what's the point in hassling and putting and when they get to the finish line of maybe having a little something, a 1/100th of what you have, right? When they get to there, what's the point of meeting them with razor wire? You got to think about it from a godly perspective. That person who has nothing where they came from, to the point where they just said, look, man, I don't care how I get there. I'm going to walk through a rainforest with jaguars and all types of poisonous plants and animals, pythons, right? I'm going to walk. And then I'm going to go through a couple of the most dangerous places in the world where I might get kidnapped or trafficked or, forced into the drug trade, right? And then I'm going to go through here. Why meet that person at your door who made it through all that with razor wire? Look at that from God's eyes and look at that from their shoes. Put yourself in their shoes, because you're supposed to love them. Treat them like a son. Would you meet your son if your son was in another country and he had hard times, and his country probably of no fault of his country is going through political implosion, economical implosion, to the point where he is so bad. He's like, look, I'd rather face life or death situations just so I can get out of here, because this is not it. Would you meet your son at your door with razor wire? Would you meet yourself at the door with razor wire? No, you wouldn't. Period. So you shouldn't treat anybody else that way. Period. The only reason why somebody would leave their home where they think about it, if you have a home right now, if you're listening to this, you have a home or a phone. What would make you leave America on foot and hitchhike rides all the way to South America? It would have to be very bad here. And what would you think of a country in South America like Colombia if they met you with razor wire and they were there talking about, you can't come here, this is our land? No, wait over there for a month. One of the most dangerous countries in the world. Right? And I'm not dissing that. Mexico is a beautiful country. It's just that land, right? That land between America and Mexico, that desert. There's a lot of people out there preying on people. You know what I mean? It's not bad because it's a remote area. Right? So they have to conquer that area to get here, because that area is pretty empty. I think it's Chihuahua. I'm not talking about down there like, the peninsula. You know? It's dangerous between when you leave that area, you pass Mexico City, you go out there into no man's land between, the last cities in that part of Mexico going to America. It's nothing out there. It's wild out there. It'd be like somebody going through, the Mojave Desert in America. It's wild out there. You don't know who live. Anybody who lives out there, you don't know what they're into. Just like it is out there. These people get through that, and then when they finally get to the other side where they think they might have an opportunity, they are being met. We have a group of people who are saying they need to be met with razor wire and turned around to go back through that again. And that is the definition of ungodly. And we are one nation under God. And if you hear and you believe in God, that ain't godly, man. Period. And I'm not speaking from somebody who is, first off, I'm not an immigrant. My family been here for a long time, right? And we didn't immigrate. A lot of my family didn't immigrate. They're what you call Native Americans, right? So I don't have an opinion. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not advocating as somebody who migrated here, 1 or 2, 3 generations ago. But one thing I do want to point out when we talking about this current event, a lot of the folks who are being very adamant about this on that border down there, some of them may be Mexicans, right? But a lot of them are of, European and Caucasian descent. And that is a little ironic because they just got here maybe 2, 3 generations ago. And they were let in. You all were, if you listen, you were let in here. You fell on hard times in Ireland, right? Had a potato famine. Maybe had a religious conflict, or maybe a war, down there in what is now, Yugoslavia. It's a lot of the Slav territory, right? Genocide going on, right? If you go into like the Caucasus Mountains and you go into Russia and things like that, a lot of poverty and things like that because of, the regime that's in there right now. A lot of people having to leave, right? You were allowed to come here through, Liberty Island, right? And all you had to do was, you ain't have to prove anything about who you were coming from Sicily or anything like that. All you did was to sign your name on a book. Nobody knew who you were. You went right into New York City. Found a place to stay. Now, why? If that kindness was extended to you, maybe not directly to you, but to your ancestors, your grandfather, your, great grandfather, right? If that kindness was extended to them, and that's why you can make it to this land, and you could exist in this land and thrive and contribute and create this great country that we have, why would you not extend that same kindness to someone else? Like your pot's gonna run out if you let these people in. If that same thinking was applied to you, you wouldn't be here. Where would you be? You know what I'm saying? Because you made a longer travel, so a longer journey, so it had to be bad too. And you were allowed to come and allowed to stay, and you were treated well. Right? Some people might say, I know there was race things going on, just like there for everybody, right? You say, against the Irish and things like that, and people have bitter, feelings because of that. And I know there's a lot of separation between races and hate going on, but like I said, you're supposed to love everyone as yourself. So that is all sin anyway, period. If you're a God-fearing person, that whole that division between race, color, whatever else is all wrong. Right? And you may have experienced that coming here with, if you're Italian or Irish or, maybe Jewish and things like that. You may have experienced coming here. You may have experienced that coming here, but that doesn't mean we need to perpetuate that. And that was wrong at the time and it's wrong right now. Right? But you were let in the country. And these people should be let into the country too. Period. If you're a God-fearing person, it's what you have to do. It's not an option. It's a commandment. If your brother becomes poor, you should help him, even if he is a stranger or a traveler. You should let him stay with you. Do not lend anything. Don't take advantage of him. Don't try to make money off of him. Let him stay with you. And that is why, in my opinion, and I'm not even going to say that. I want to say that is why, in my opinion, but if you look at the folks who are trying to let these people in, that's God working. So don't fight against that, because it's your duty as a God-fearing person to let that person in. Let that person stay with you. They are obviously coming from poverty. Nobody who has anything left to live for is going to get up and walk here from there. And anybody who's coming here for a terrorist attack, it's not coming. It's never happened before. When has a terrorist attack ever taken place? And we was like, oh yeah, he snuck through the Texas-Mexican border. No, they flew here. A lot of them was trained by United States Army. Right? Well, they flew from Japan and bombed Pearl Harbor. They came from the Middle East, flew here. Got a plane, had a plane ticket, got on a plane, commandeered a plane and flew it into the Twin Towers. Right? Or they were in the UK and had a bomb in their underwear and had a train ticket to be on the train. See what I'm saying? Like that whole thing of somebody coming here, walking through the desert and crossing the Rio Grande and committing a terrorist attack. That gap of land is so dry and it's a desert and there's nothing there. What can that person bring with them to damage America? And what city are they damaging that's close to that border? McAllen, Texas? El Paso, where are they attacking from there? And then if you want to talk about the drug trade and things like that, that's both ways. You see it. That's both ways. There are guns coming from America going to cartels in Mexico, right? And there are drugs coming from Mexico coming over to America. So that's both ways. And this is not about drugs. It's just not. It's not about drugs. That's an easy problem to solve. But from what I see, it's not my opinion. America loves drugs. Everybody out there screaming legalize it right now. So I don't understand. It's not a war on drugs. We talking about people who have nothing. People who are in poverty, who are destitute, who are walking here because they have nothing that they left behind. And it's our duty to let them in. And I'll find the law that says it's law 266, which is right now it's law 266. I'm editing them right now. It's not, I'm editing them right now. Some of them are out of order, so I'm going to edit them. It's law 266. It's Leviticus 19, verse 33 through 34. This is a commandment. It says, do not take advantage of confuse any stranger that comes into your land. You should treat him as a son and love him as yourself. You see, you should treat him as a son and love him as yourself. You would not meet your son who left his home in another country and walk to your border, walk to your home because he has nothing. You would not meet your son at the door with razor wire. Period. What you're doing is ungodly, and I'm speaking from an unbiased point of view because I can tell you at one point in time, I had somebody talk to me about, minimum wage and this, that, and third. And I was like, you know what? They should kind of slow down things at the border. But I'm talking about the law right now. It's a law. You have to open up the border, period. And in the border situation, as far as to South America, I don't know what that is about, but it has to be charged in some way. Because if you think about reason, it doesn't make any sense. You have people coming here from across the Atlantic and across the Pacific every day on visas, and they stay well beyond their visas, and we're not searching them out and trying to put them in jail. Right? They come here from all different types of places, Russia, this and that. Nobody's talking about that. But everybody wants to talk about the southern border. These people come from Central America, South America. They come from one of the Americas. They just come here. And it's our duty to let them in, treat them as a son, and love him as ourselves. Period. So you just let them in. There's no reason to start a war over that. Period. It's black and white. There's nothing in there that talks about potential terrorist attacks. And even if you want to talk about, there's past events like drug trade and human trafficking that have taken place, there's another law, it's 245 right now. It's Leviticus 19, verse 18. It says, do not take revenge for your people or hold a grudge against the children of your people. Love your neighbor as yourself. So no matter what happened in the past, you can't hold a grudge between you and anybody. You have to love your neighbor as yourself. So when he comes to you, you have to love him as yourself. Period. So one side, and if we all believe in God here, and if you believe in God listening to this, there's only one side of this that you could ever fall on. If somebody comes to your land because of poverty, which there are problems. We know there are problems that are going on in Venezuela. We know there are problems going on in different countries out in Central America. We already know that. And everybody knows that. You have to let them in. And it says, let them stay with you. It doesn't say you have to give them some bread. It says you have to let them stay with you. So they can come here. There are plenty of cities in America that are half empty, a quarter empty, because the industry might have went under, during the Industrial Revolution, or, during, some factories may have closed down. There are plenty of empty buildings in America where these people can stay. We have plenty of food in America. We can feed the world 10 times over, right? So there's no problem. When you look at the history of America, as a God-fearing person, you'll know why we are blessed, because we do things like that, right? And we do things like have an atomic bomb, which nobody else had when we created, and we don't bomb the world and kill everybody and try to take over everything, right? We do things like that. That is why this land is blessed, because you can't be harsh to people, because God will put you in a situation where you'll be the same judgment will be put against you that you judged and laid on somebody else, right? If you choose to be cold and callous to people, somehow, some way, you'll find your way to their position, and the same will be done to you. So those people on that border, and anybody who's listening to this, tread lightly when you are harsh against somebody, especially when if that person left their homeland because they have nothing and came to your doorstep. Watch how you treat them, because one day you could be in that position. Or your child could be in that position. Your grandson could be in that position. Maybe at that person's door down the line. And you think they're going to forget? No. And you're going to get what you deserve. There's only one way to skin that, son, and that's the way it is, right? That's the way it is under law. These are not mine. This is not my opinion. You can go back and listen to it. Those are the laws that reference this topic. And with that being said, like, there's nothing charged about this. I just wanted to look it up myself because I know, and I've had these reasonings that I've given that are popular on the news that they give to close the border, right? And the last president, Trump, tried to close the border, and these are things that I've gone back and forth on plenty of times. So I'm not just one way. Hey, open the border all the way. I've gone back and forth at different phases in my life, right? But that's the reason why we need to follow God and follow his laws and commandments, right? Because based on who you are, where you come from, let's say you're, let's say, and this is just logical, right? Follow this line of thinking with me, right? Let's say you are of, Asian descent, and you want America to be another Asia. You want to take over America because you think America is open for taking, right? Well, in that case, if you want to take over America, then you'll say, well, we need to be the majority in America, and we need to have all the cabinets and political positions in America, and we don't need any competition. So close the other borders where people who are not Asian come from, right? And you might just be trying to take care of your people and your family, and you want to have resources and things like that, and you want to be rich. You want to be the people. You're just trying to promote self, right? Which in a lot of cases, right, a man's trying to take care of his family, man and wife trying to take care of their families, right? You can't convince that person not to do that, but that is why you need to have God in your life, right? Because this gives you ultimate wisdom on how the universe works. Right? You need to be kind to those who come to you in poverty. You need to love them as yourself. And logically, that might not always be the conclusion that you come to based on what your agenda is at the time. But this will take care of you for generations and keep you right with the universe forever, right? Those situations where you might choose to adopt that style of thinking, and you think it might benefit you in the short term, right? But, we all can't avoid hard times. So when hard times do come, right, God's not going to look favorably on you. And the world is not going to look favorably on you. The energy is going to be against you because when they were in hard times, you were hard. Right. And that's why a lot of these countries are not the richest country in the world. They think they're not the richest country in the world because they haven't taken America. But they're not there yet because they can't handle that responsibility. And that's with a lot of us too. You got to apply that to yourself too. Do I take care of my brother as myself? Am I giving? If I had everything, would I share it? And if the answer is no, or if you kind of shaky about it, that's why you don't have everything. Because everybody else is going to starve if you have everything. But if you take care of everybody as yourself and you look after everyone as you do yourself, God will not have a problem blessing you with everything because he knows everybody's going to be taken care of because you're going to take care of them as he would take care of them as you would take care of yourself. You see? And that is why America is in the position that it is right now. That's why. If you look at it from a God-fearing perspective and you look at it from a universal law perspective and being one with the universe and doing what's right in God's eyes, so he will propel you and magnify you. That is why the federal government, right, which I live in Florida, and a lot of people don't like the federal government, but I tell you, right, down here in the South, a lot of drugs. A lot of people on drugs, love drugs, don't have any objections to drugs. And there's another podcast about that, right? You can go look that up. And what that's about, that is not favored in God's eye. And it'll give you the laws that tell you that, right? And when we talk about, race and hey, letting people in and being kind and things like that. Look, we want to shut down the border. That is setting America up for immediate death. If America decides to be that cold, we will lower ourselves, because we won't be in line, in tune with God and his commandments. So if you are listening to this and you are a God-fearing person, and you do have family members who live, sprinkled out through the country, or maybe on the Texas border, who are, claiming to be God-fearing people, and who do not want these people to cross the border, you need to show them this so that they can hear this. Because if you are a God-fearing person, this is in black and white in your Bible, in your Torah. It's in black and white. When somebody comes from poverty to your land, you have to let him stay with you, and you have to love him as yourself. So don't complain about the benefits that these people get. Don't complain that they get to live here and they get help, they get assist. We have to treat them as we would treat ourselves. Yes, every American here, they get, at bare minimum, they get food. They get a place to stay. You have to love them as yourself, so they get the same thing. So those forces down there, you all need to change. If you follow God, let them hear this. Let them hear this, because a lot of people resonate, and a lot of people do not want to be at odds with God. A lot of people may not know that they're going to be at odds with God, right? They might be operating on self-preservation. They might be scared because they thinking of scarcity, right? They might be, thinking like, okay, this is God's land and I got to protect it. They might be thinking like that. And that is why it is very important to study God's law. And that is why it's very important to know right from wrong based on what God has for you. This is his universe, right? So a lot of people may be acting because they're being influenced by someone else, maybe a Donald Trump. And I'm not saying Donald Trump is the worst guy in the world, right? I don't have any malice towards Donald Trump. Period. Like even in my voting record, I don't. Period. Right. But when we look at this, if we don't know the law, you can be pulled in the wrong direction because you're making choices based on what's on TV, your personal preference. No, if we look at God and we look at what he wants in his commandments, this is his universe. It is your responsibility to take that person in and to love them as yourself. Treat them as you would treat yourself. It's our responsibility to do it. So don't destroy America doing that. Because obviously, America is preserving itself. So the federal government is preserving itself. That's like, look, America is not going to be destroyed because you don't want to treat people as you treat yourself. And these people are thinking they're preserving themselves because they're like, look, we live on the Texas border. There's drug trade going on this, and they're holding grudges between it because they don't know they've had past bad experiences and things like that. But it's our duty to do that. And if you don't want to be a part of that and you don't want to live in that area, look, try to come up with a better way to facilitate it, right? Because right now there are buses picking these people up, taking them to different cities so they can be, have facilities and things like that. There are buses that are taking help and get them sorted out so they're not in your area. You don't have to worry about being dangerous. Guard them. Be a guard at the what's the name? Help them across and say, hey, you have any guns on you? Have anything? Okay, this is America. This is our rule. This is our law. We're gonna get you to a place. Help them. If you help them along, you don't have to worry about bad people coming into your area. You can look at a guy and find, hey, this guy got a knife. Hey, this guy got a gun. He got this and third. Take him to a detention center. We can figure this out. What he came here with this for, right? Instead of putting up razor wire and condemning us all, it's better ways to handle that, man. If you don't want to help and you want it to be a non-issue to you, don't live on the border. I'm not saying you gotta uproot your whole life, but if you don't want that to be an issue that you have to think about, don't live on the border. Here I live in Miami, right? There's plenty of people coming over from countries that are distressed, maybe in the Caribbean, right? Maybe from South America, but it's fine. Let them in, man. They not coming here to do anything. They might still love their country in their heart, but hey, look, you're here in America now. People assimilate, man. There's plenty of Cubans here, plenty of hate. They love America. You know why? Because they come here and Cubans don't have to go through anything when they get here. As soon as they touch the beach, they're in America. They don't have to go back. So they love America because from day one they've been treated. Now, when they, back in the days, maybe a generation or two ago, there was a lot of signs and things like that on businesses that say no Cubans need apply and things like that. I've heard stories of that. I wasn't there, right? But I mean, you can go look it up. You can see pictures of it. That happened, right? That puts a bad taste in people's mouths because it's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to treat them as you treat yourself. You would not give your son a job. So yes, let them come and treat them as you would treat your son. Treat them as you would treat another United States of American citizen. And these will be the people who will help you in the future. When the good things come to them, or maybe something bad happens to you, that'll be the person who helps you out in the because they're gonna remember your kindness. And they're going to remember when they were hurt and they were down and their own country couldn't take care of them or their own land couldn't sustain them. They will remember when they came here and how you treated them and how you clothed them and how you fed them and how you got them into a better position in life when they came from what they felt was nothing, where they felt they was going to die. And you will be blessed for that. You're saying it's our responsibility to do that. Everybody came here, man. Right? Whether Donald Trump came here. How you talk about putting up a border and keeping people out? They can't. And they say, oh, we just need to slow the flow. We just need to do this. Bro, if you were in that position and the people were talking about slow the flow, that would be upsetting. Just let them in, man. There's plenty of... I've done this calculation before, right? Based on the average size of... This is a fact. Based on the average size of a household in the planet, which is like... 2 people or however many people, right? Based on the average size of a household on the planet, every household on the planet, right? And the size of California and Texas, right? Every household on this planet can have an acre in California or Texas. There is plenty of space in this world, and there is plenty of space in America. There's plenty of resources. The argument or the thought that we're going to run out of resources on this is ridiculous, man. There is plenty of resources to go around, period. I'm going to say that again. You can go do the math. Look up the average size of a household on this planet. Divide the world's population by that. Go look up the square mileage or the acreage total for the states of Texas and California. And divide them by the number of households on this planet. Divide, and you'll see that every household on this planet can have an acre in California and Texas, and the rest of the planet would be empty. We do not have a population problem. The world is empty. America is empty. Every state, even the most populous states in America, we just named one, Texas, is empty. Look at it on the map. It's empty. There's nobody there. It's not even close to full. Look at California. It's empty. Look at Illinois. It's empty. Look at Pennsylvania. Empty. Look at New York. Empty. Everybody lives on the island. You get into New York State, it's empty. America is empty. This planet is empty. Even with the billion people on it, it is empty. It's not even close to being at capacity. It's empty. Everybody on this planet who has a household can have an acre in California or Texas, and there will still be plenty of space left in those states. So there is no problem. Just let them in. You have plenty, and you didn't create it anyway. Nobody created this planet. This is God's planet. And if you believe in God, He has commandments. Just follow those commandments, man. And that'll keep us all from being condemned. You see what I'm saying? Everybody came here. Like I said, they came. Donald Trump came here 2-3 generations ago, right? His wife came here, right? Anybody who's Jewish came here. Anybody who's from the EU came here. Anybody who's from Africa came here. Anybody from Asian descent came here. Caucasian descent, which is Asia, came here by way of migration. So you can't come here seeking refuge, get refuge, and deny other people refuge. There are people here who are in dire situations who are literally walking here. those that if you want to make an argument, that's probably the most desperate person who really needs to come here. If you did that, you really need to come here. Right? So you might as well just let those people come here. You have to. There's no argument. If we all believe in God, and we all believe that God's commandments are final, I just gave them to you, and that's what He says. So there's no argument there, unless you subscribe to something else. And if that's the case, then there's another problem, right? Then this means nothing to you, period. And that's all I have to say about that subject. I think there was one last point. Everybody coming in. I mean, that's it. I can't think. I forgot what it was, but that's it. As far as the quote unquote crisis at the border goes, as far as in God's eyes, what we should be doing as people, as Americans, as hosts, that is what we should be doing. So I don't understand the two sides, and if we want to look at the two sides and we want to say who's right and who's wrong, there you have it in black and white. Texas is clearly in the wrong. Putting up razor wire like that, you wouldn't do that to your son, and you wouldn't do that to yourself. If you didn't have anything and you left and walked somewhere, you wouldn't meet yourself with that. So that is there's no other way to skin that cat, man. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for joining me. I've started putting these podcasts, and I'll put other videos up there on YouTube. So you can go. It's The King's Law is the YouTube channel. And if you listen to this on YouTube, please subscribe, please like, please look at the website. Please listen to the podcast, and please be a part of the community. Comment on the comment section on the website when it's up there. At this time, it's not up there, but comment on the comment section of this website. And please follow and study the law and things like that. As a God-fearing person, right? This is something that is newer, right? It's a newer way to follow God, because most people don't care about God's laws and commandments. But if you look at it, a lot of the problems, if you study it for yourself and if you follow along with this podcast, you'll see that all of the world's problems today are because we fall outside of law at different places, and we don't know it because we don't follow God's laws. And we end up harming and damaging ourselves. And this is one of them, right? Because we have two groups of people at this point in time, right, who both think they are right. One thinks, they're right. They might be basing it on God and God's commandments, right? But they might be just basing it on the fact that, I'm an immigrant and I want to keep the border open because I came from a Caribbean country, right? And then you have a bunch of people in Texas and in the South who live down here, and this is the Bible Belt, and a lot of people who claim to be God-fearing live down here, and they're trying to close the border and shut these people out and put up razor wire, right? But that is why you need to follow the law, and you need to know and study the law, because you might be claiming to be a God-fearing person and you want to do everything right in God's eyes, but you might be led astray because of what you see on TV and certain groups that you align with that lead you astray, because no group is right, all the way right. No religion is all the way right. God's law is right. So you need to study it and know it so you don't end up doing something like this, which will condemn you. Which will condemn this nation that you're trying to protect. You'll condemn the nation you are literally trying to protect doing that. These patriots, they calling themselves patriots. You are going to condemn the country that you are trying to protect doing that. And you say, well, I didn't know that. Exactly. That's why you need to study the law. Save us from civil war. Save America from being condemned. So this is a very important message. So it probably should come out earlier than it is, but it's a very important message, man. Because you all might destroy America, and it might be because you're out of line with God's commandments. And there might be somebody watching who knows God's commandments and might be setting it up like that because they see these two groups of people. Neither one of them know why they're doing what they're doing, and they might just destroy each other. Because Texas is a strong state, and there are a lot of veterans and active military people who live in Texas who may, divide from America based on this conflict. And a lot of them are God-fearing, but don't follow God's laws and commandments. They subscribe to a religion which tells them they don't have to follow laws and commandments. So they will condemn themselves in this country. And I'm telling you, these are the pits that you can get yourself into if you don't know the law. That's why you must study it. That's why you should go to thekingslaw.com and study the law and know it. Because you'll destroy yourself ignorantly. And it's your fault because you had the instructions there and you never looked. So look. Study it. Know it. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect, but in situations like this, where important things come up, you'll be able to make a informed decision so you don't destroy yourself. Without it, you might not know which way is up and which way is down. And without it, you could be led astray. So please, I urge you. 1 is here for you, I'm telling you. And 2, go look it up for yourself. And study further than that, so that the other pits that may come along we don't fall into. Because this pit is in black and white, and it's pretty obvious. If you believe in God, which with the Texas, I believe, is part of the Bible Belt. There's a lot of God-fearing, red-blooded Americans down there. If you're God-fearing and you reading your Bible, why did you skip this? Because you might be going to church and just listening to a pastor who might be reading entire other sections of the book, and you don't even know the law, which is a problem, which means you don't know God. So you need to keep coming back here. You need to go study the law, whether it's in your Bible, whether it's in your Torah, or whether it's thekingslaw.com, so you know. Period. Because you're going to destroy this country. We ain't going to have one anymore. And it's going to be the God-fearing people's fault. The God-fearing people's fault. And we all gonna fall because of you. So please listen. If you're listening to this and you have uncles and aunts who, show them this podcast, man. Tell them, even if you don't show them this podcast, show them the law. You can pull it up on your phone. It's a website, www.thekingslaw.com. You can go type in stranger. Look it up. It's right there. Or you can just go straight to the Bible. I think it was one is Law 266, another is Law 244. Let's look. Stranger. Another is Law 244. And another is the first one that I said. I don't remember. You can probably just rewind and look it up. But the first one that I said is Law 345, is Leviticus 25, verse 35 through 27. It says, if your brother becomes poor, you should help him. If he is a stranger or a traveler, you should let him stay with you. Do not lend anything to him for interest or profit. So you should let them in, and you ain't going to try to take or make anything off of them. And you should let them stay with you. And love him as yourself. So that's all that has to be said about that. And I hope this reaches out to the world and kind of helps, the world avoid this nonsensical conflict. Because we should all be on the same page, especially if we all claiming to be one nation under God. And this is a God-fearing, this is the Bible Belt. This should be a non-issue. But this is what happens when you fall away from the law and you start believing in your religion. This is exactly what happens. You don't believe in God, you believe in your religion, and your religion isn't giving you God's commandments. So you don't know them. So you don't know God. You might pray every day, you don't even know God. You might have caught the Holy Ghost yesterday, you don't know God. You don't even know his will to do it. You might be loading up 223s and AR-15, putting on a bulletproof vest to go put razor wire on to people you're supposed to be treating like your brother and letting into your home and letting them stay. You might be doing that if you don't know the law. So I advise you, I strongly urge you to study the law, period. Because these are the times that we're in, where issues like this are coming to a head. That's what Jesus referenced as the end times. It's the end of you based on your actions of not adhering and studying God's laws and commandments and seeking his will. It's your punishment. It's a punishment that's coming to you that you can avoid by just going and looking up the law. Studying the law. That's actual fear of God. Fear of God isn't going to church every day and praying over your meal. Fear of God is knowing the law, studying the law, applying it to your life, judging yourself against it, and teaching it to your children. That's real fear of God. So take it, learn it, love it, live it, and make decisions like this easy so you don't condemn yourself unknowingly. And that is really all I have to say. All right. Please join us again. And like I said, all these laws are on www.thekingslaw.com.